Oh, you need to get off my lift. So many good parts to choose from. You know what? I'm tired of waiting. I think it's time to open that box back up. Do you ever feel like you're going in reverse? Because I do. I'm tired of this car being on my lift. I'm tired of waiting. I just want to make some power and go drive it. I have fought for the last month to get this car NA. I purchased some 3-inch tailpipes, got me some monster Borla 3-inch exhaust mufflers, and a build your own X pipe. And I was even given 1 3/4 Bassani pipe. That's got to be built, and those don't even fit. Sounds like I'm complaining right now, but let me just get right to the point. If you're just now joining the channel, 1990 black Foxbody Mustang. Now this car, if you've seen it in my channel before, used to have a small block 302 stock bottom end motor. It went to a 351 stock bottom end motor. We put the 363 stroker back in it that used to be in the white car. We were going to run naturally aspirated with some big 3-inch exhaust, shoot some nitrous at it later in the year, but times and effort has changed. We are going to go back to a turbo setup. Do you know why? Because when the car tells you to put the turbo back on, you put the turbo back on. Let me explain what I'm talking about. Sometimes there's a series of events with your car that happen that you just gotta listen to your car. Take an example for this car. It had a 351 base motor in for years. Worked just fine, fit just fine, fit under my hood. I get it back here with a 408 stroker, it don't wanna fit. So it went in my white car. So we just switched engines, right? No big deal. Sometimes you just gotta listen to your car. Call me crazy. Another example, same car, same year. We were gonna go naturally aspirated with those 1 3/4 Bassani headers and shoot some nitrous at it. As I mentioned, 3-inch exhaust, no big deal. Nah, Dan, I don't want that NA stuff. I want that old turbo kit. Sometimes you just gotta listen to your car. That's all. So what it's saying now, and what we're about to do in this video, is put our turbo kit back on this car. This isn't a really how-to install video, but more or less just joining me on the journey. Because to be honest with you, I get this turbo kit on this car, bust a laptop out, put some fluids in it, it's ready to run. No more building and no more waiting. However, some of the things that we're still gonna do, and I'll stop talking and I'll start wrenching, is we are still, after we get the car tuned, we're still gonna keep these things on here. Because I like the fact that I have a dual exhaust looking car. If you remember one of my other videos when I introduced some of these parts, you'll see that this is a straight through muffler. So we are gonna use this on this car. And since that's a build your own X pipe, I'll be able to take this pre-built down pipe in midsection that I already had built from a long time ago, and I'll be able to actually modify my exhaust to where I still run a dual exhaust with an X pipe, but it's gonna be a single coming from the down pipe. Stay tuned, let me get you on a time lapse. I'm gonna start gathering parts, and I'm gonna start wrenching here very shortly. All right, so real quick, you've probably seen it in the time lapse of me carrying most of this stuff. You know, I got my headers I'm gonna probably install first. It's pretty nice when I can just bust out my turbo kit and just be done with it. You know, no more building, no more waiting, no more procrastination. I know how to do this. This is what I do. And this is easy to me. Cousin Paul and Fred did a really nice job getting these painted. We actually paint these with really, really high heat paint, but we also heat them up and grind them down real good. And this header I'm very confident with because it's been re-welded and reworked and gusseted. So this should work very well with the 363 and I shouldn't have any problems with it leaking. Same with the driver's side. The one thing I am gonna have to do, and you see I gusseted here with my blowout, is I'm gonna have to rework this pipe one more time again. My whole goal today and tomorrow is to get the hot side hooked up, maybe even get this refitted, the crossover refitted, and get the turbo mount. What that also lets me do, lets me get my radiator top mount done for the hosing, because you can't run this really. Be able to tighten this belt up, get everything set and adjusted. So bear with me, I might put you on a little bit of a time lapse. I gotta figure out what spark plugs I'm gonna run. I got an NGK plug that I'm gonna put in here that have been running for a long time. I gotta gap them, get them in there real quick before I start putting these headers on. Well, I got the passenger header on. I didn't really do a time lapse because I'll probably just go through one step at a time as I'm doing it, as boring as this video may sound. But passenger header is usually the hardest one to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the plugs in on this side because I wanna do that before I put the turbo on. And then I'm gonna mount the turbo and possibly start on the other side, the driver header, and we'll continue rolling. Guys, I know this isn't super exciting. This ain't a burnout video. This ain't a running a 9-second video. This ain't one of them clickbait videos. It is what it is. We're trying to get some work done. And I apologize if it's boring to y'all. All right, so I want to show you the plug of choice. NGKR's BKR7Es. These are my choice plug. I'm gonna gap these at about 23. I'm gonna get them in before I have to put the turbo in, so I got room. Then I'm gonna put the turbo on, get this side done, move over to the other side. Because tomorrow I want to be locking the motor down because I got the motor mount still loose, resetting the crossover and the wiring. So, all right, we're moving right along with it. We got the turbo put on. We got the passenger header put on, locked down. Notice my belt was a little bit too long. So this is like a 68.5. I'm gonna have to run like a 67 on this, or maybe a 68, 67.5 or whatever. That way the alternator, this is usually a clearance issue. Got this all locked down. Looks really good. We are ready for downpipe on this side and some spark plug wires and the DEI covers. I think I'm gonna call it quits there tonight. Gonna get the easy driver side on tomorrow. That's pretty easy. Header bolts are kind of a pain in the butt. Then we're gonna get it up. I'm gonna put the crossover. I'm gonna actually cut it right there on the car. I'm gonna lock it down. Gives me an opportunity to take a double check. Let's make sure this isn't falling apart inside. And I'll actually fit this to the current setup. Because legitimately, the only difference between a 302 and a 351 on 3 kit is the crossover length for the most part. Once I get that done, we're working on the cold side and fitting the downpipe, and got some things to hook up here, fuel system to prime, and some fluids to do. We'll be running here very soon. All right, second day, we're hammering down on the black car. Back in black, ready to make some 9-second passes. What we did yesterday, passenger side header on. Got it locked down with the good locks, stainless fasteners. Got the turbo locked down, got everything lined up. Probably hook up the fuel lines, do the driver's side. This type of thing I fully expect. The motor NA will probably make like 450, 420, I don't know, 400, whatever. So I'm pretty sure that this setup with this 76, 75 precision that I've had rebuilt last year, probably to run anywhere in the 600 to 700 range. I don't know, depending on what fuel I run. I mean, it's what I do, guys. I couldn't do the naturally aspirated anymore. I couldn't do the nitrous. I was running out of options with this exhaust, so I'm gonna build my own dual exhaust H-pipe, Y-pipe. 3-inch, 3.5-inch to the back. Some cool tailpipes, make it look stock. Ended up getting the driver's header in. I got to lock it down a little bit more. Got a couple more bolts. You can see how close these stainless header bolts came to it. I'm gonna hook up the fuel lines while I'm over here on this side to get the battery situation set up. I'm gonna have this thing pretty much close if I can ever find my downpipe. Got my upper radiator hose, which fought me. Got a 67-inch belt that works perfect with my 3G. Puts it right up against the turbo or very close. Ran my alternator wiring harness. We're gonna go ahead and get into the fuel system and do the rear and the front feeds to get this thing rolling. A lot of little things. It's the little things that count the most, folks. You got to pay attention. Like putting your grounds on and, you know, making sure that my wires underneath there are all wrapped so they don't get burned by the header, and my O2 sensors. There's a lot of dumb stuff when it comes to, you know, tightening up a motor. I'm super happy with it though, being a turbo again. Guys, that's the one thing about doing projects that you just don't want to procrastinate. You do a little bit of work and then you move on to the next one and you move on to the next one, whatever. It's best not to procrastinate. Like, I should have probably never procrastinating even putting this turbo kit on. This car probably would have been running by now. You know, you think, oh, that's not a lot of work, and you get into it and you're like, man, this is a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, because it's all the little things that take the time. And all these header bolts down here, you know, on 3 is already really close to the flange. It took me probably 3 hours just to do the headers. But it's not a big deal, guys. It's best just to get it done than to wait on it. That's probably my biggest piece of advice to anybody. And then we got old dad's car staring at me like, haha, still not broke. So nice thing about having the old 351 kit is I get the big intercooler that came with that kit, the big 4-inch. Even though it's a small block 302 style setup, that'll actually play really good into my advantage. I'm gonna go ahead and get this car up in the air and get this thing locked behind my brackets. That way I can mount up the cold side, because I'm gonna need to see the cold side mounted up first before I start modifying that crossover in the next day or two. All right, so we got a bunch of stuff done. I got my whole cold side hooked up for the most part with the intercooler. I always have this shimmed nice and even. Got all the fuel lines hooked up. I would hook up the rest of the cold side, but we got to stick this downpipe on it. It's going to probably use some nut modifications. I'm just picking at it. This is the best way to do it. Just pick at it and get it done. I'm going to drive this car a lot this year. The header's all nice and reinforced up. So I fully expect to get some longevity out of the kit this year. Maybe I could start working on some of the other things like the paint. Cause I'd like to finish the exhaust and finish the paint, and maybe work on some of the interior stuff. So we went ahead a few days. I've been in build mode like Legos. We went ahead and got all the cold side set up here in the fender well. We also finished the crossover setup, and we got a lot of the things hooked up underneath of here. So pretty much the only things we're waiting for is a dipstick and an oil feed line. Because for some reason I misplaced my oil feed line when I stored my turbo kit when I took it off my 408. But I think it's with my white Mustang out at Big Dog Fabrication. Anyways, guys, got a couple small things to do, and I'll be making, my next video will probably be of us starting this car and getting it on the laptop and getting a tune wrote for it. Outside of that, guys, I appreciate everybody for watch time. I appreciate you watching the video thus far. If you haven't had a chance, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. If I've done something on the channel or you enjoyed my videos enough to where you want to support the channel, there's a join button below. It's a club membership where we're going to be doing some really cool giveaways this year. T-shirts, hats. There's a big one at the end of the year, for the premium members. There's going to be a big giveaway at the end of the year. Outside of that, thanks everybody for watching. Next time you see this car on the next video, we'll probably be starting it. See you soon.